Okay, guys, welcome to On the Clock, Monday afternoon, WagerTalk free pick, college basketball free pick show. We're going to get into a couple games. First, I'll recap last week. Last week, even though the weekend didn't go my way, it was still a pretty good week. That 6-0 run from Tuesday through Thursday got me out with a slight winning week last week. So even though we had a bad weekend, the week was okay, and we'll try to do that again this week. And every subsequent week, trying to battle back and make this a decent college basketball season. So we'll continue to work toward that. The change in show format was awesome last week. I changed the show format to 3 picks. We're going to go slightly longer on each pick. It's going to be 2 angles that I've either bet so far or I'm close to betting, and then we're going to keep total of the day. Since we made that change, 2-1 on Wednesday, 3-0 on Thursday, 2-1 on Friday. And then the weekends, which won't have like your traditional show, I'll try to kind of spot pick games. And we had one on the clock play, which also was a client play for Saturday. And that was Vermont -2. And Vermont got it done. So new week of shows. I've got 3 plays I'm going to talk to you about. We are going to start with the total of the day. I wonder if our guy Steve Merrill will be at this game. He goes to most William and Mary home games. This has got to be one of the bigger ones of the season for the Tribe. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. We're talking Charleston, William and Mary, and we're going to talk about the boatload of points that there's probably going to be in this game. The total is 166.5, which is outrageous, but I'll be shocked if both these teams don't get to 80. So I'm going to tell you to play over the 166.5. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of reasons why I think it makes a lot of sense. So William and Mary, this is actually incredible. They gave up 96 points to Campbell over the weekend. Surely that game went over, right? Wrong. It actually stayed under. 96-55. William and Mary lost to Campbell, and it ended up under 154.5, which is just insane that they gave up that many to Campbell and the game didn't go over. Why did the game not go over? Well, William and Mary went 3 of 25 from 3. Had one of their worst shooting performances of the season, which I understand, and it's going to go hand in hand with what I'm going to talk about. But this is a team that shoots 35% from 3. I don't think they're going to shoot this poorly at home. Remember, they were on the road over the weekend. But I'm not that surprised that William and Mary gave up 90+. And I wouldn't be that surprised if they give up a ton of points here, because this is something I've talked about. Brian Earl, head coach of William and Mary, was up here at Cornell for the last decade. So I've been watching Brian Earl coach teams in my backyard for years. And something that's happened with his less experienced teams at Cornell is they fizzle out in February and March because they just weren't conditioned to play the breakneck pace that he wants to play. 2 years ago, Cornell had a really good team, very similar to what William and Mary has been so far this year, that totally fizzled out come February. And after the season, he straight up said, like, we ran out of gas. And going into last year, one of the things he talked about that he liked so much about last year's Cornell team is that it was guys in year 2, mostly in year 2 and year 3 of his system, that totally understood what he was asking from them from a conditioning and fitness standpoint. And that's where I think maybe William and Mary doesn't quite have it. You know, this is a team, it's his first year at William and Mary. It's guys trying to learn his system. The level of fitness he demands from his players is very high. And now you've got a couple of guys that are hurt. Like, I don't even know, Gabe Dorsey has been in and out of the lineup. There was another starter that didn't play over the weekend. So one has to wonder just how deep they are right now. Charleston's I called them the Timu version of last year's team, which is like, I guess, a funny way to look at it, but I just don't think this Charleston team is as sharp as the Pat Kelsey Charleston teams, but they can still score. There's going to be a lot of points in this game. William and Mary is probably going to run out of gas, similar to those Cornell teams that were sort of in the early stages for Brian Earl. And I think it's going to translate into giving up a lot of points. So 166.5 seems high, but I think this one's going over the total, and that will be total of the day. All right. We are going to head over to the American Athletic Conference for a big showdown between North Texas and UAB in a rematch of a game that saw UAB blow a 17-point lead halftime lead earlier this year to North Texas. And this is the rematch of that game. And North Texas comes in. They were kind of riding high, really like all conference play. I think their only other loss was Memphis, but over the weekend, the disastrous result that I feel like it's kind of was somewhat predictable for this North Texas team finally hit over the weekend when they lost as a 14.5-point home favorite to UTSA. But if you've watched North Texas play, I got to see this team play in person down at High Point. I've watched a bunch of their games. That was always probably coming because they really hide some of their inefficiencies with they're such a good team. They play together. They kind of understand, I think, what they're trying to do, and their defense is good enough to keep opposing teams from scoring that it masks some of the issues that this team has that I think are going to be exposed by some of the better teams in this league. Or you're going to have a scenario like over the weekend where it's just an offensive day, you score 50 and you can lose to a team like Texas San Antonio. They play tons of one-on-one. North Texas doesn't rebound. They're outside the top 300 in rebounding. They don't move the ball. So essentially what North Texas offense is, it's a lot of dribble drive, trying to get to the rim and getting fouled. And it's a lot of tough shot making. And to North Texas's credit so far this year, they've been very good at getting to the line where they make all their foul shots. They've been very good at hitting tough shots, and they rarely turn the ball over. So they're really giving up nothing in transition. The other team doesn't get easy baskets, and they've been able to win games in the AAC, which just is down this year. If this was like an AAC like years past where you have Memphis and Houston, UCF, like South Florida, these teams are really good. North Texas is probably middle of the pack, but the reality is the conference isn't as good this year, and they've been able to get by. They weren't going to get by UAB until UAB completely fell apart. That was a 17-point lead in the first half for UAB. That game went exactly how I would expect this matchup to go. Like UAB has all the edges here. They were up 17 at half, and they inexplicably blew that lead, but I'm actually not that surprised that they blew the lead because UAB is not mentally tough. They're not always together. The team's kind of been a mess. This was a team that was supposed to have Greg Gordon, that he hasn't been with the team since December. It's just they've tweaked it. They've played around with the starting lineup. It's not the best team, even though they have some statistical edge. So, but here at home, I really think they've started to play better. They've scored 84.6 points a game. That's ninth nationally. They're top 20 in rebounding. I gotta just think that they can put it together for two halves at home. If they do, they'll have one of their bigger wins of the season over North Texas. I like this on the money line. It's moved a little bit. I think UAB wins, and had I not missed the jump here, I probably would have actually added this. But at minus 145, this will remain a lean, and we're just going to go UAB money line to get it done against North Texas. All right, let's head out to the Big Sky, a team that, you know, for liking this team as much as I do this year, Northern Arizona, a team I got to see play in person last week, and a team that I've been high on in this conference since non-conference play. I'm really disappointed in myself because I've played two of their conference games and I'm 0-2. Yet they're 6-3. Yet they're 6-3 against the spread in conference play. So I've managed to find the two losers, which is super frustrating because I feel like I've been a little bit ahead of the curve on them, and I haven't benefited from them starting 6-3 against the spread in conference play. They were 4-0 against the spread on the road in conference play as an underdog. Well, on the road, but all four times as an underdog until the weekend, where, of course, I backed them on Saturday, and they just had an awful shooting game. Shot themselves in the foot so many times, got in a huge hole, nearly climbed out of it, nearly battled back, but the hole they built up against Northern Colorado was just too big. They started down 32-13. I think they had it down to like 12 at one point. It ballooned as high as 29, got it back down to 12, and then they kind of just like, you know, it just seemed like every call went against them, every bounce went against them. It was just one of those games. And you know what? Northern Colorado, you can't have that happen against Northern Colorado. That's the class of this league. Like, Northern Colorado essentially hit their average. 50.8 points per game is what they average. It's basically what they hit in the game, and yet they won in a blowout because Northern Arizona had a abysmal day on the offensive end. Out rebounded Northern Colorado 42-31, and it was just like there was a lid on the hoop. They couldn't buy an outside jumper. And of course, Northern Colorado is going to score because that's what they do. They score. They went 14 for 30 from three. That's just what Northern Colorado does. They're the best team in this league. Weber State is not that. And that's why I'd be willing to kind of jump back in here with Northern Arizona. +1. I feel like they should be favored in this game. Like Weber State's definitely due. So that's a concern. They're kind of due to win one at home. But this is just they're a far worse team than what Northern Arizona saw on Saturday, like by a lot. Defensively, Weber State's as bad as you're going to find. Most analytics sites rate them out defensively like 320, 330 nationally. Like they can score, they can put the ball in the hoop, but still at a rebounding disadvantage. Northern Arizona is a very good rebounding team. They don't turn it over. They do a lot of good things. And I think this Lumberjacks team, that 4-5 record is a little bit harsh. Like, a lot of these, they have a lot of close losses in this league, which is why they're 6-3 against the spread, but 4-5 overall. So they just got embarrassed by Northern Colorado over the weekend, probably a game they thought they had a chance in. I think Northern Arizona bounces back here. Weber State is at the bottom of this league for a reason. I think they get a little too much respect for having been good in years past. This is not a good Weber State team, and I think Northern Arizona finds a way to win this game. They're a little overrated by books at home for whatever reason, but they've been very undervalued on the road. 5 times as a road underdog this year in conference play. They're 4-1 against the spread. I think they win again as a road underdog. Believe they're +1 right now. They may even flip to a favorite before this is all said and done. So that's another one I'm looking at. Haven't added it to my client card yet, but it's very possible that Northern Arizona +1 does make it onto my card today. There's only one play up for me at WagerTalk right now. It is a 4% college basketball play that goes earlier than this one. So if I add this one, I'll probably throw it up to Twitter, but go on over to WagerTalk, wt.buzz/AT. Check that out. Let's get back in the win column, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.